People only want one thing, and it's not money, it's not power, it's not even love. It's this. A Lego Space Marine. And today's your lucky day because I'm going to show you exactly how you can build one of these for yourself. This bad boy can fit 142 parts in it, which come in a variety of colours, so not only can you represent your favourite space racist factions, but it also has pretty good posability, and if ever you get bored of it, you can always just switch out the heads. Now I wanted to start off this video by going over the design process a little bit and giving you lots of tips and advice on how you can start designing models like this for yourself. However, if you're not interested in learning and are only here for the free instructions and step-by-step tutorial, then go ahead and skip to this timestamp, or this timestamp. I don't know where it's going to be yet, but if you do, I will know. I won't judge you, of course, it's entirely up to you if you don't want to learn and improve yourself, but I will know. Now the first and most important piece of advice I'd give to anyone, but especially new builders, is to steal. Of course I don't mean physically put down the balaclava, but what I do mean is gather as much reference as possible and steal ideas. And this can be a bit controversial, but the very first thing I do when I'm starting a new build, alongside looking up actual source reference, is looking up Lego reference. As you see, the thing is, you're not special. That idea you just had, it's not original, and that means somebody has very likely already done it before you, and that's great, because it gives you the opportunity to steal, learn. The LEGO community in particular is full of incredibly talented and creative people who have come up with solutions to problems you haven't even thought of yet, and so it seems like a complete waste not to learn as much as you can from these incredibly skilled people. For example, great builders like Chubbybots, Jerak and Funny Stuffs have all done their own version of the Space Marine, and that last one in particular is where I stole the idea of using feathers on the chest plate, which does bring me to the one thing you do need to do if you're going to steal, and that is of course give credit. Doesn't really matter if it's a technique, a certain part used a certain way, or even just inspiration, it never hurts to credit the original builder. And in almost every case, the builder loves to see that something they've built has inspired someone else to do the same. And also if you don't credit, then one, you're an asshole, and two, people will absolutely call you out on it. So now that you've got enough reference to get ideas flowing and not miss any important details, it's time to actually start designing. If you've got the bricks to play around with, then that's great, but if you don't, not to worry, as recently I've been using a lot of digital programs to design. Programs like Bricklink Studio or even Mechabricks, although personally I find Mechabricks just a bit less intuitive. Either way, you can find great tutorials on YouTube for both of these programs, which are what I currently use to design and require no physical bricks. And so at this stage, I usually try and identify key details from the references that I absolutely want to translate onto the Lego model. For the Space Marine, the main detail I wanted to capture was the gold trim on the shoulders, as it felt like it hadn't quite been done just right yet. And once I had a design for that, it set the scale for the rest of the model, as opposed to if you're trying to build to a certain scale, then I'd probably just recommend trying to find parts that match the shapes you're trying to replicate. And you can even add reference images into Studio now and start from there. The biggest challenge for this model, and for a lot of the other ones I'm designing at the moment, is something I've complained about many times in my shorts, and that's joints, to the point where I'm starting to sound like your nan. I really do hope her knee surgery goes well. As you see, LEGO produces a wide variety of different hinges and joints, and in 2014 released parts that would revolutionize mock building. I'm of course talking about the legendary Mixel joints. These are great for getting a wide variety of angles in a pretty sturdy way, and they're so good you'll notice I have not used a single one on this build. And the reason for that is I don't like the way they look. They don't fit in, please don't take that out of context. As you see, they only come in shades of grey, which is great if you're building a spaceship, and I would absolutely recommend building spaceships. But for anything else, especially anything organic, these joints are really going to stand out, and they can just ruin the aesthetic of a build. So when it comes to this kind of build, don't be afraid to get creative with joints. As you can see here, the elbows are connected directly to the shoulder pads, angles are connected to the knees, and you'll see what I've used instead of Mixel joints are these T-bars, and that's because they give you a great range of motion on two different axes. Another unconventional joint attachment I came up with after quite literally days of trying to figure out the shoulder joints is attaching the shoulders to the backpack instead of the torso. I've since updated the design, but the thing is, when you're building stuff for yourself, there's no real rules. The whole if it's stupid but it works, that just means it's a creative solution thing, absolutely applies here. And the last tip before moving on to the step-by-step tutorial is get help, please. Me and your mother, we worry about you, just join a LEGO Discord. But seriously, getting feedback and constructive criticism on something you're building is by far the quickest way to improve, and it's definitely the way that has helped me the most. Even if it's just a friend or family member who doesn't necessarily build, that can tell you, hey, that bit looks stupid. It will then allow you to go back and try and come up with a better solution. Now of course, if you're instead getting feedback through the internet, don't be a dumb. Stay safe, don't talk to just any old stranger, give no private information, anything like that, yada yada, come on, I'm not your dad, but I'm sure he will be back one day. Anyway, right, let's get to building. Welcome back. If you're only just joining us, then you missed out, but I still love you anyway. And so for this portion of the video, we're just going to be building the Space Marine in real time with minimal cuts, so if anyone wants to follow along at home, they can do that with a little bit of added commentary to give you lot any tips and secrets you might need to build this without any incidents. However, I'd still recommend having PDF instructions open at the same time to follow along, and you can do that through Rebrickable using this code to get them absolutely free. So right off the bat, first little secret for you, the ankles suck. So it turns out the clutch between the bracket and the tile isn't quite as strong as the friction with the T-bar, and so when you try and twist it, it sometimes does just twist the bracket out of place. This is unfortunately just an issue with Lego's Clutch Power. I did love that film as a kid, and so it does mean this build isn't really an action figure. It's more of like a statue that you can pose, as opposed to like a fully posable action figure. As much as I would love it to be, it's just kind of the limitations of building it this size with Lego. It doesn't always hold together that well, which sounds really bad, but it's honestly it's not that bad. Unless you were planning on, playing with this thing a lot, it should stay together. There's definitely a few parts I've had a few issues with, like the ankles and somewhat the shoulders as well, but we'll get to those later. However, when it comes to the legs, the rest of them are pretty much fine. It's literally just the ankles that are a little bit finicky. The rest of it, very straightforward, nice clips, works well, no problems there. You may also notice that this portion of the video is pretty much unscripted. I'm just kind of watching the video along with you lot and trying to give you lot anything you might need to build this without issue, and so yeah, it's not going to quite be as produced, but we do at least have a leg. If you want to pause it here to build the other one, I'm just going to grab one from over there because nobody wants to see me build the exact same thing twice. However, I can imagine you lot might need a little bit longer to build that. Next up, we're going to move on to the torso, because that will then allow us to attach both of the legs. That is how bodies work. Anatomy in it. Wow, I am very quickly realizing why I script most of my videos. This is genuinely hard, but not as hard as when I initially tried to film it. I was trying to talk and film at the same time with like a face cam, and it just was not working. My brain cannot do those two things at once. And so it was absolute disaster. This is the next best thing, and yet I am still struggling. Once again, T-bar is going to come in clutch here. This is another section. It's not unstable. Once it's all together, it works really well, but the little side clips that the pouch is then attached to, turns out I'm getting ahead of myself. Not that bit. Patches do attach to that bit. I lied. It's the other bit. It's like a little black bit that helps separate the upper torso and the waist, I guess, or maybe it is the waist. I think it is the waist. But they don't actually quite attach that well to the T-bar. Like, they fully, once it's in place, it holds together real nicely. I haven't had any issues with it, but it may look like they don't quite go into place when you first do it. I also fully got ahead of myself, because I thought I was going to build that bit next, and I'm pretty sure in the instructions it builds that bit next as well. So I don't know why I've done it differently in the video. Wow. Yeah, this is, I wouldn't call this a disaster just yet, but it's kind of going downhill already, huh? Thank you for sticking with it if you're still watching. Damn. Okay, this is the bit I was talking about. So it's just a little 3-brick assembly, pretty straightforward, but the clip on the back pretty much only half attaches to the T-bar, because T-bars are only so long, so you can't fit everything along it. But it still clips on enough to hold in place, and once it's like wedged in between the torso and the pouches, again, I haven't had any issues with this bit. Just be warned, it doesn't quite look right, and at first might be a little bit finicky. Once it's in place, no problems there, I hope. Again, if you do have any problems, let me know. I can probably come back and like redesign some of this. Even just during the making of this video, I probably redesigned this thing like 3 times. Which is why it's taken so long, in part. The jumper plate on top, also now wrong. While editing this video, I had an idea and I fixed it. The instructions are correct. Please follow the instructions. Because, yeah, like I said, it's a work in progress, in a sense. Although I was satisfied with the initial design, there's always just little improvements you can make. Unfortunately, making these videos seems to kind of set it in stone. But I think Rebreakable does allow you to update the instructions, so keep an eye out for that, especially if you lot have any problems, and let me know. I might be able to fix them and then update the instructions, and everyone will get a little email and can sort that out. Next up is the shoulder, I believe. This is it. This is the part that like started this whole build. It's where I kind of set the scale, as I was saying earlier. And yeah, boy, was that a mistake, because now all my Warhammer builds are like 3 times the size of miniatures, 2.5 times the size to be precise, I guess. Which for the Space Marines, fine, not many problems there. They kind of still fit mini-figure scale because they're huge. And then we started doing the Dreadnought, and that thing is big. It's not huge, but it's still pretty big. But anything else, anything bigger than that is really gonna struggle. I don't think there's enough blue on Bricklink to get all the parts for that. But we'll see. This is the other little bit. It's a little bit finicky with the shoulders, right? So it works. This is the latest update, the latest design. It does allow for a lot more posability than the old design, but it's still, again, a little bit weak when you try and move it, because the trim is pretty much just held on with that clip there, and the arm kind of like clips into it a bit. For this version, I've used the brand new little rounded plates with a clip on them, which are amazing. I have now like fully relied on those to solve so many of my problems. You can also use a claw. It just limits the... Oh yeah, I forgot about this. Anyway, yeah, the claw limits the movement. What's going on here, which I, apparently completely forgot about between editing and recording this voiceover. I found a new way of doing the shoulders while recording the build. Originally there was just a 1x1 tile on the corner of the shoulders. That worked well, there was no problems there, and then when I built it for this video, I ended up using a 1x1 corner tile instead, which just gives it like a little bit of a rounded edge to it, which I thought worked actually somewhat better. I just kind of wasn't expecting to be updating the design mid-video. But again, the instructions reflect that, and so the version you got is the most up-to-date version. Don't worry about it there. But it did then take a while to find 2 corner tiles, because I've been using them a lot in Warhammer stuff, and I didn't really have 2 spare. But I think it works significantly better. I think it just... that's an exaggeration. What am I on about? It's nicer. It's a little bit more rounded. Anyway, yeah, attaching the shoulders to the torso. Now with a bit of mobility. Before it was a lot more solid, as I was saying earlier, the shoulders were attached to the backpack. Not a great design, creative but not great, and now you kind of get that movement by using the bar with plate on it and the clips, so that the arms can at least go up and down without like tearing the build apart. It's great. And lastly, we're on to the backpack. Jetpack, backpack, power pack, I think it's power pack. I've been corrected before on this, and I of course listened to all of your comments, but some of the information doesn't quite go in. I think it's a power pack, sometimes a jetpack, not sure. Either way, this is the last section of the build. It literally just like slaps onto the back. Not really much wrong with this. It's pretty solid. Uses those Nexonite shoulder pieces, which I absolutely love, to get the kind of rounded vents. Are they vents? Again, it made more sense when it was a jetpack, because those were like the boosters at the top. I mean, they were completely undersized, but I thought that was just a stylistic choice. But I guess maybe they're vents. I don't know. Either way, Nexonite shoulders work. Nexonite's shoulders work really well for this section. And apart from that, it just kind of goes together. That's those tiles are where the arms used to attach. Maybe I'll redesign the jetpack, actually. Yeah, after now just saying that it's great, there's no problems with it. Maybe it could do with a redesign. Maybe everything could do with a redesign. Maybe... No, I'm not... I was about to go off on a tangent. We just need to finish this build. And as we do that, I'm going to get a little bit ahead and move on to the helmet, because I don't know if I allowed myself much time to talk about the helmets. The ones I use are from AliExpress. I hate it, but they're great. If you can support small businesses, that's always preferable, but no one's really doing these, and especially not as good. AliExpress has so many colors. I hate it, but they work really well. However, Reddit user Matt Manley did come up with a really nice brick-built version. I mean, I would probably struggle to come up with something better than this. Unfortunately, it is just kinda big on my Space Marines. You can also use the Galaxy Squad helmet. It comes in quite a few colors. For a purist option with pretty much just any head you want underneath, with red eyes would probably work. I'll see if I can come up with some nice ones for you lot, but that pretty much does it. That's the video. You know the drill, like, subscribe, comment, so you can let me know which of my builds you want instructions for next. We've done a few of them now, probably going to be BT, not gonna lie, I love that build so much.